What's up, everybody? My name is William, and let's talk about the world population's favorite subject, imprisonment, a worldwide phenomenon all about sending people to a metal crate. Alright, so everyone is probably asking right now, what does imprisonment mean? Now, normally I'd go tell you to look it up, but I'll make an exception just this one time. Imprisonment is a word used to describe being locked up in a jail cell for committing a crime, because you may or may have not paid your taxes or something, I don't know. But Will, you may ask, when did this whole imprisonment thing decide to exist? I mean, I don't know, it's been around for hundreds of years, most likely because people have been committing crimes for hundreds of years. But legend says that the first modern-day prison was made in London. Ah yes, my favorite capital of England. Anyways, more specifically, it's all thanks to Jeremy Bentham, who had believed that the current punishment system needed a tuning. He believed that the death sentence shouldn't be given to somebody who stole some bread. He ended up helping to develop a more reasonable punishment system. Existing prisons were then altered to comply with these new punishment rules. Now, over the years, things have changed within the world of prisons, and even though the entire original purpose of the modern-day prison was to cause less death, they've instead caused a bit more. What would happen if you got sent to one of these prisons? You would receive food, and you'd keep staying there, and probably die to a diseased rodent or something. When people were released from prison, a portion of them would just go right back to a life of crime, because they really didn't know how to work their way back into regular, everyday society. And then the US tried to replicate this whole modern prison day thing when a large number of people decided that one day they wanted to migrate to the US. Now, different from London, they put more thought into it, and by that I mean that they would provide healthcare and programs that would help prisoners return to society. They also made the food a bit better. Every prison needs laws, so let's talk about some that are in place. We've got the Truth in Sentencing Law, which forces prisoners to serve at least 80% of their nominal sentence. We've also got the Three-Strike Law, which increases the chance of a life sentence being given to an offender if they've committed 3 or more felonies. And we can't forget about the 8th Amendment, which protected citizens from receiving cruel and unusual punishments. It also gave inmates minimum standards for living there. In another amendment, prisoners were given protection from discrimination or unequal treatment based on race, religion, gender, or any of these other fun words I found in the dictionary. There were some prison standards set, making things within just a bit nicer than England before the US decided to make much bigger changes to the system. If a prison didn't meet up to certain standards, the government would provide funding to better maintain it so that it could continue hosting prisoners. Alright, with that out of the way, let me explain something. Some people think that you should be able to just commit arson and then walk away freely, but if I ask people who've never committed a crime before whether they should go to jail for that crime, they'd probably say that yeah, you should. And why is that? Because everyone has different experiences and opinions about these certain subjects. Some would say that these different experiences could cause arguments. Because they do. And apparently, we have a special addition to these next couple paragraphs. A major argument. Now, before you ask me, I have no idea. Major arguments are probably just arguments that are larger than your average argument. But they're probably important, so let's talk about them. One major argument is that overcrowded facilities can harm a prisoner's health and psychological well-being. Makes sense to me. If I was locked up for a large sum of years, I don't think I'd be happy either. Especially if that prison cell just so happens to have 50 other guys who just caught a disease and all smell terrible. I think that would definitely do a bit of damage towards my psychological well-being. There are 2.2 million people locked up across the country. The political spectrum stomps their foot every time they take a look at the recurrent rate of incarceration. People argue that it costs far too much and achieves far too little. They believe that punishments should be proportionate to the crime, like in 2012 where over 100,000 people were served a life sentence, hot and fresh, for minor offenses. They believe that cases should be treated alike, so nothing seems unfair or unusual when compared. So like if one person goes to prison for something they did in one case, but in a past case the exact same thing happened but the person in question was off the hook, that's not really fair, right? People believe that criminal punishment does more harm than good, which I somewhat agree with. As said before, imprisonment can mess with someone's well-being, which could make things difficult for them when they try to return to society. Moving on, there are 2 other types of prisons that I should probably explain. The federal prison and the private prison. Now, I'm feeling tired, so let this game show inform you. Alright, welcome to the WillowLeo3 game show. You heard that right, WillowLeo3 with a game show somewhere at the end there. Who's Willowly? Basically my online name. Anyways, we've got 2 contestants here today, John and Christopher.
Alright, cool.
Alright, let's get started. The first question is, what is a private prison? Chris, that was you. What's your answer?
A private prison is a prison facility run by a third party for when the government runs out of room for prisoners in their own facilities.
That is correct. Chris, you get 100 points. Alright, the second question is, what are federal prisons? Alright, John, that was you.
Hey,
What?
I know, me. I just came from there, I know. So federal prisons are for prisoners that are too special to be put in regular prison. Like ones that require treatment for serious medical problems, or the ones that need to be put in confinement for being extremely violent, or prisoners that often try to escape.
Well, you sure do know a lot about prisons. You must really like the topic.
I mean, I would know. I just escaped from there.
Okay, well that's the end of this edition of Willow Lee's game show. I hope you learned something new. Chris, you won, you get a gold star.
But I didn't get to answer anything. The prisoner stole my question. What do I get?
Nothing. Get out.